My name is Delaney Pierce. I'm 31 years old, and for 6 years, my own family acted like I died somewhere quiet and they'd already finished grieving. It started at a Thanksgiving table in Erie, Pennsylvania, the kind with the wobbly leaf in the middle that nobody ever fixed. I'd driven 4 hours through sleet to be there. I had news. Real news. The kind you save up and rehearse in the car. I waited until the gravy went around twice, and then I said it. I'd passed my licensing exam. I was going to be a surgical tech, full scholarship to finish the program down in Charleston. My hands were actually shaking when I said it. My mother looked at me for about half a second. Then she turned to my younger sister and said, "Cassidy, did you bring the photos from the gender reveal? Your father hasn't seen them on the big screen yet." That was it. That was the whole reaction. My father grunted something at the TV where the Lions were losing. My brother-in-law reached past my plate for the rolls without looking at me. And Cassidy, my golden little sister, pulled out her phone and started narrating a slideshow of pink balloons, while I sat there with my announcement just hanging in the air like a smell nobody wanted to mention. If your family ever made you feel like a ghost in your own kitchen, do me a favor and hit subscribe right now. Because 6 years later, my aunt posted one photo of the house I built, and within an hour, my father was texting me for the first time since that Thanksgiving. And what he asked for is going to make your jaw drop. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That night, after the dishes, my Aunt Bernadette found me on the back porch in the cold. She's my mother's older sister, the one nobody in the family ever fully approved of, because she never married and never apologized for it. She handed me a coffee and stood next to me looking at the frozen yard. "They're never going to see you, sweetheart," she said. "Not the way you want. You could win the Nobel Prize and your mother would ask Cassidy to pass the cranberry sauce." She wasn't being cruel. She was being the only honest person in that house. Go build a life so good you forget to be sad about this one. I left before dawn. I didn't slam any doors. I just put my house key on the counter next to the coffee maker and drove south while it was still dark. I told myself I'd call when I got settled. I never got the chance. By the time I crossed into Maryland, my brother-in-law had removed me from the family group chat. By the time I hit Virginia, my number was deleted from my parents' phones. I found that out months later when I tried texting my mom on her birthday, and it bounced back like I was a stranger. Which, I suppose, I was. Charleston in August is a wet heat that sits on your chest. I got a room in a boarding house off Sproul Avenue, one of those places with a window unit that rattled and a landlady who took cash and asked nothing. The scholarship covered tuition, but not rent, not food, not the bus pass. So I did what you do. I found work. My first real paycheck came from a diner on the edge of the medical district, 6 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, then class at 3. $9 an hour plus whatever the residents tipped. Which wasn't much, because residents don't have money either. My feet swelled. I learned to nap sitting up on the bus. The first month, I lived on day-old biscuits the cook let me take home in a grease-stained bag. My phone stayed quiet. No missed calls. No "Are you okay?" Nothing. I checked it out of habit for a while, the way your tongue keeps going back to a sore tooth, and then I stopped checking. But every single Sunday morning, like the sun coming up, a text from Aunt Bernadette. The first one just said, "Still vertical?" I wrote back, "Barely." The next Sunday, "Still vertical?" I wrote, "Barely, but I aced anatomy." She never lectured. She never once mentioned my mother or asked when I was coming home. She just sent 2 words every week and let me answer in however many I had in me. I finished the program 8 months later. Top was my cohort. The hospital that ran my clinical rotation hired me before I'd even walked at graduation. $41,000 a year felt like winning the lottery after a year of grease bags and bus naps. I cried in the parking garage when the offer letter came through. Not because of the money, but because somebody, a stranger in an HR office, had looked at what I could do and said, "We want you." I texted Aunt Bernadette a photo of the badge with my name on it. She wrote back, "There she is. They don't get to know about this." And she was right. I didn't owe them the update, so I kept it. The work was brutal and I loved it. There's a clarity in an operating room that doesn't exist anywhere else in life. Everything matters. Everything has a place. Nobody's pretending you don't exist when you're the one passing the surgeon the clamp that stops the bleeding. I picked up extra shifts. I learned cardiac, then I learned trauma, the hard cases nobody wanted on a Saturday night. The lead surgeon, a gruff man named Tobias who'd terrified 2 techs into quitting before me, started requesting me specifically. Pierce doesn't flinch, he told the new hires, like it was the highest compliment he had. It was. 2 years in, I got promoted to lead surgical technologist for the whole cardiac unit. The raise was real. For the first time in my life, I had a savings account with a comma in it. I rented a little apartment in West Ashley with a screened porch, and I bought a beat-up second-hand kayak and started paddling the marsh creeks on my days off, watching the herons, learning the tides. The silence out there wasn't the lonely kind. It was the kind you earn. Aunt Bernadette's Sunday texts evolved. "Heard you're running the whole unit now." I sent her a photo from the porch with my coffee and the marsh behind it. She wrote, "You made yourself a life. Hold it with both hands." I made the mistake, exactly once, of logging into an old social media account to download some photos. The algorithm, and its infinite cruelty, served me my sister's profile first thing. Cassidy and her husband had bought a big house in a new development outside Pittsburgh. There were professional photos. My mother had commented, "So proud of my babies," on every single one. My father had posted a picture from the housewarming, his arm around my brother-in-law, captioned, "The son I always wanted." Not one photo anywhere had me in it. They'd cropped me out of the family the way you crop a stranger out of a vacation picture. I closed the app and deleted it that night. By year 3, I was charge tech, managing a team of 9, building the surgical schedule, training the new techs the way Tobias had trained me. My salary had nearly doubled from where I started. I opened a second account and labeled it, half joking, the house fund. Every leftover dollar went in. On my drives home, I started taking the long way through the older neighborhoods, looking at the bones of houses, learning which streets flooded and which didn't, what a roof costs, what a foundation should look like. Year 4, I bought it. A 1920 single house in a part of town that was still cheap because it hadn't been discovered yet, 2 stories of heart pine floors and a sagging piazza and good bones under decades of bad paint. I put 20% down out of the house fund and signed the papers with a hand that didn't shake at all this time. The closing attorney slid the keys across the desk and said, "Congratulations, Miss Pierce. It's all yours." I sat in the empty front room that night with a flashlight and a beer, and I have never felt anything as solid as that floor under me. I did most of the work myself, nights and weekends. I learned to refinish floors, to rewire an outlet, to hang my own crown molding crooked the first time and straight the second. The whole house became a kind of conversation between me and the person I'd been at that Thanksgiving table. The one with the shaking hands and the announcement nobody wanted. "Look," I kept telling her. "Look what we did without them." It was around then I met the structural engineer. The piazza was pulling away from the house, and I needed somebody who knew load-bearing walls before I started knocking any down. He showed up in a faded t-shirt with a clipboard and a tape measure and a yellow lab named Biscuit, who immediately claimed my couch. His name was Reuben, and he had a way of explaining things that didn't make you feel stupid for not already knowing them. He spent 2 hours crawling under my house and came up covered in cobwebs to tell me my foundation was better than half the new builds in town. Turns out Reuben was Aunt Bernadette's neighbor back in Erie years ago, before he moved south. Small world. That kind of small world that doesn't feel like coincidence so much as something settling into place. He didn't mention it until later. We started having coffee on the piazza after he'd finished the work, then dinner. Then he stopped being the engineer and started being the person I told things to. That's how the photo happened, in the end. Aunt Bernadette finally came to visit, drove the whole way down in her ancient Buick, refused to fly. She walked through my house, room by room, running her hand along the restored banister, the one I'd sanded for 3 weekends straight. And she stopped in the front room and just looked at it for a long time. "Your mother would lose her mind if she saw this," she said quietly. We grilled shrimp on the back porch that night, and she told me old stories, careful ones, the kind that skipped right around the people who'd written me off. Before she left, she made me stand in the doorway of the house in the morning light. "For me," she said, "just for my phone." I didn't think twice about it. She didn't post it from the doorway. She posted it later, that night, from her own kitchen back in Erie. A wide shot of me standing in the door of the house I'd built out of nothing, with a caption I didn't see coming. "My niece Delaney bought and restored this entire house by herself. Surgical tech, homeowner, the strongest woman I know. Some of you abandon her. Look what she did anyway. I found out because my phone started buzzing. The first text was from Aunt Bernadette herself, a screenshot and one line. I may have stirred the pot. No regrets. I called her. Bernie, the whole family sees what you post. She just said, I know exactly who sees it, sweetheart. That's the point. 6 years they treated you like a tombstone. One photo doesn't fix that, but it sure does flush out the truth. The truth came fast. Sunday night, the photo had 200 shares. Monday, my mother's cousin commented, Is that Delaney? She looks like she's doing well for herself. Tuesday, my mother liked the post but said nothing, which from my mother was practically a billboard. Wednesday, my brother-in-law messaged Aunt Bernadette directly. That can't be real. Houses like that cost a fortune. She replied, Real as it gets. She earned every nail. I read that one on my lunch break in the break room, and Ruben, sitting across from me with a sandwich, watched my face and said, Family found you, didn't they? Thursday afternoon, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. The preview alone stopped my heart. Delaney, it's your father. We saw the house. You're doing well. We need to talk. Call me. I didn't call. I screenshotted it and sent it to Aunt Bernadette. She wrote back one word. Breathe. Then another text from the same number. Your mother's been worried sick. 6 years is a long time, kiddo. Worried sick. The woman who deleted my number before I crossed the state line. Friday, a third text. Your sister and Tyler are going through a rough patch. Family needs to come together. There it was, the shape of it, starting to show through the fog. Then an email from my mother's account, an old one I'd never blocked because I never thought I'd need to. Honey, we miss you so much. We'd love to come see your beautiful home. Let's put the past behind us. I forwarded everything to Ruben, who has a paralegal sister and a healthy suspicion of people who reappear the moment you have assets. He texted back, Document all of it. Don't agree to anything in writing. Then came the part I should have seen coming. Saturday morning, an email with an attachment, a flight confirmation, 3 tickets. Pittsburgh to Charleston, arriving the following Wednesday afternoon. My mother, my father, and Cassidy. My father had added a note at the bottom like he was doing me a favor. We'll figure out the rest when we get there. Can't wait to see you, kiddo. They hadn't asked if they could come. They'd just bought tickets to my city and informed me of the arrival time. Aunt Bernadette called me that night. They bought tickets, didn't they? I asked how she knew. Because I know them. And because Cassidy posted about a family healing trip on her stories. Healing. She made the word sound like something stuck to the bottom of a shoe. Delaney, listen to me. Whatever they say at that dock, at that door, they did not come 1,000 miles to apologize. People who want to apologize send a letter. People who want something book a flight. I spent the next 4 days in a strange calm. I worked my shifts. I paddled the marsh, and every night I sat on my restored piazza, the one Ruben had pulled back from the brink, and I rehearsed nothing, because there was nothing to rehearse. I knew exactly who I was now. The hospital had told me. Aunt Bernadette had told me every Sunday for 6 years. The house under my feet told me every single day. Wednesday afternoon they showed up in a rental SUV, all 3 of them, like a holiday card come to collect on a debt. My father got out first, arms already spreading for a hug as he walked up my front path. There she is, look at you. Look at this place. My mother climbed out clutching her purse, eyes going straight past me to the house, doing math. Cassidy came last, phone already up, filming, narrating to nobody. We're here, we made it. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at her house. I stood on my own porch and I did not come down the steps to meet them. What are you doing here? I said. Not a question, really. My father stopped at the bottom of the steps, the hug deflating off his face. We came to see you. Family reunion. Can we come in? It's hot out here. You can answer me first, I said. 6 years. Not a call, not a card. You deleted my number before I made it to Virginia. Now you're on my porch. Why? My mother's mouth pulled tight. Delaney, that's no way to greet your parents. We've come all this way. Nobody asked you to. Cassidy turned the phone toward me. Can you not be hostile? We're trying to heal as a family. That word again. I looked directly into her camera. Turn that off, or I'll have you removed from my property. My father changed tactics, his voice going warm and reasonable, the voice he used on car salesmen. Okay, straight talk then. You always did appreciate straight talk. Did he know one true thing about what I appreciated? Your sister and Tyler are in a bind. The development they bought into, the builder went under, they're underwater on the mortgage, they're about to lose everything, $60,000 and they're whole again. And look at you. He gestured at my house like it was an argument. You've clearly got it, family helps family. There it was, $60,000. The whole reason for the flight, the warm voices, the word healing, repeated like a spell. I let the silence sit. A heron flew over the rooftops behind them, and I watched it go. You ignored me for 6 years, I said, and now I'm a bank. My mother stepped forward, dabbing at her eyes. We were hurt. You left without a word. You broke my heart. You deleted my number that same day, Mom. I have the bounced texts. From your birthday. From the year after. Don't tell me about hearts. Cassidy lowered the phone, going for tears now since the camera hadn't worked. Delaney, I'm your sister. I'm going to lose my house. My kid's house. How can you stand there in this huge place and watch me lose everything? And here's the thing I'd promised myself I would do. The thing I'd earned the right to do on every double shift and every bus snap and every Sunday 2-word text. I sat down on my own top step, slow and easy, and I started counting. Year 1, I said. I turned 26 in a boarding house in a city where I didn't know a single person. I worked a diner shift, then I sat my first major exam, then I came home to a window unit that didn't work. You posted that weekend, Mom, Cassidy's engagement party. I saw it, not one of you called. My father opened his mouth. I kept going. Year 2, I got hired into a hospital, first real job. I texted the family line, the one Tyler had already kicked me out of, so it bounced. You co-signed Cassidy's car that month, a new one. I read about it online like a stranger. Cassie's chin trembled. That's not year 3. Charge tech. Managing 9 people. I emailed you, Dad. Both of you. I have the read receipts. You answered Cassidy's wedding RSVP that same week and ignored mine. I wasn't invited, by the way, my own sister's wedding. My mother whispered, we didn't know how to reach you. You knew exactly how. You chose not to. Year 4. I stood up now. I bought this house. I sanded that banister with my own hands. I rewired that porch light you're standing under. Nobody called. Nobody knew, because you'd decided I was dead. And now it's year 6, and the only reason any of you crossed a state line is because you need $60,000. I came down the steps, not toward them, past them to the gate I'd hung myself, and I opened it. Get off my property. My father's mask came all the way off then. After everything we did for you, you'd let your own sister lose her home? You're cold, Delaney. You always were. Selfish. Everything you did for me, I repeated. Name one thing. 1. You can't because you spent 6 years doing nothing at all. That was the gift. The nothing. It's the only reason I'm standing on a porch I own instead of waiting for your approval at a table where it was never coming. Cassidy made a last lunge, grabbing for my arm. You owe me. I'm your blood. My neighbor across the street, an off-duty deputy named Hollis who'd helped me move a refrigerator the month before, had drifted out onto his own porch. He didn't say anything. He just stood there with his arms crossed, watching. And that was enough. My family saw him and the math changed. You have until I count to 10 to be in that rental car, I said. After that, I'm calling it in as trespassing and I will press it. They went. My mother crying, my father muttering about ungrateful children, Cassidy filming the back of my house for whatever sad little story she'd post about how heartless I'd become. At the gate, my father turned around one last time. Last chance. Wire the money tonight, and we forget this happened. I closed the gate between us. There's nothing to forget. You already forgot me 6 years ago. I'm just catching up. I locked it and walked back up my own steps, and Biscuit, who Reuben had left for the afternoon, met me at the door wagging like I'd won something. I suppose I had. The fallout reached me in pieces over the next few months, the way weather does. Cassidy and Tyler lost the house. The builder's bankruptcy took a dozen families down with it, and there was no rescuing any of them, with $60,000 or $600,000. My parents refinanced their own home to throw money at the sinking ship, and when that didn't work, the bank came for that too. The last I heard, secondhand through Aunt Bernadette, they'd moved into a 2-bedroom rental on the wrong side of Erie. The 3 of them and Cassidy's kids all crowded in together, blaming each other and, I'm sure, blaming me. I blocked every number, every email, every account. Reuben's sister drew up a clean little cease and desist for the handful of guilt-soaked messages that trickled in after, and they stopped. A clean break. The kind I should have had 6 years ago and never got to choose. The house is finished now, or as finished as an old house ever gets. Reuben's tools have somehow migrated permanently into my shed, and Biscuit has a bed in my kitchen, and neither of those things was a decision so much as a settling. Aunt Bernadette comes down twice a year and we grill shrimp on the back porch, and she tells her careful stories, and we never, not once, talk about the people in Erie. I used to think family was the thing you were born owing. I don't think that anymore. I think family is the people who text you 2 words every Sunday when you have nothing to offer them but barely. I think it's the man who crawls under your house and tells you the foundation is good. I think it's a yellow dog and a neighbor on a porch and an aunt who stirs the pot on purpose because she loves you enough to flush out the truth. The people who share your blood get to know you when you have plenty. The people who stayed when you had nothing. Those are the ones who get a key. I decide who comes through that gate now. And the gate, like everything else in this house, I built with my own 2 hands. The strangest part is how clean it all felt at the end. Like a wound that finally stops aching once you stop picking at it. For years I thought the silence from my parents meant something was broken in me. It took building a whole house with my own 2 hands to understand the silence was theirs to own, not mine to carry. What happened to them wasn't a curse, and it wasn't luck. It was arithmetic. My family spent 6 years investing everything they had, their money and their attention and their love, into Cassidy, and when her world collapsed they had nothing left over and nowhere to turn. They had taught themselves to see me only as a resource, so when they needed one, they came for me. That's not mystery. That's just what you get when you plant the same seed over and over and expect a different harvest. They reaped exactly what they sowed, and so, in a quieter way, did I. I keep coming back to 3 things that pulled me through, and I think about them now whenever someone younger asks me how I did it. The first is that I refused to become what they were. It would have been so easy to wire that $60,000 just to feel chosen for one afternoon, or to scream at them in a way that left me ashamed later. I didn't. I told the truth, I held my line, and I did it without becoming cruel. You can protect your peace without poisoning your own well. That mattered to me more than winning. The second is that I learned to see people clearly, even when seeing clearly hurt. Aunt Bernadette taught me that with her 2-word texts and her honest porch conversations, I stopped confusing the family I was born into with the family that actually showed up. When my father's voice went warm on my front path, I recognized a salesman underneath it because I had finally trained myself to look. Clear eyes saved me a fortune, and not just in dollars. The third is the plain stubbornness it took to keep going when nobody was watching. $9 an hour, bus naps, day-old biscuits, sanding that banister 3 weekends straight with blistered hands. Nobody clapped. There was no audience. No proof it would ever pay off. I just kept showing up, 1 shift and 1 floorboard at a time, because the only person I needed to prove anything to was the girl with the shaking hands at that Thanksgiving table. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this. The people who vanish when you have nothing do not get to reappear when you have something. You are allowed to build a gate, and you are allowed to decide who comes through it. Stay decent. Keep your eyes open, and don't quit on yourself in the dark years when nobody's looking. That's how you end up standing on a porch you own, instead of waiting at a table where the seat was never really yours.